trolls. It's an internet slang for troublemaker.
Prototypical everyday sadists.
Trolls' complete lack of empathy for his victims.
It's more like psychopathic behaviour.
It is very dangerous.
Twitter trolls often revel in the outrage they cause.
And trolling is at times a serious issue. It constitutes harassment, it can constitute incitement to hatred.
Their attacks can be vicious, intensely personal, and with the growth of social media like Twitter, dangerous as well.
Freedom of speech doesn't cover threatening to rape somebody, quite clearly, I don't think, in anyone's language.
Miley Cyrus calls out Twitter to stop death threats. Celebrities receiving death threats is unfortunately nothing new, but Twitter is the newfangled way to attack celebrities.
Call it back, folks. Stop threatening to kill people on Twitter because you don't like what they're saying.
We don't need death threats.
A Hollywood actress attacked on Twitter for promoting gun safety.
Presumed Obama supporters began insulting Dash for her opinion, some saying she isn't, quote, black enough.
The good feeling for Joel Ward didn't last. Within minutes, a string of racist comments were posted on Twitter.
Homegirl is getting death threats. I'm a Republican voting for Mitt Romney. This started a slew of Twitter abuse. Many people telling Nikki that they hope she dies if Romney wins.
But I'm both fiscally and socially conservative.
What happened with your Twitter account?
Well, the Twitter account, what happened was they suspended it.
This was all on Twitter? People are tweeting that?
Yeah, people are twittering.
People are such ass.
David Letterman's jokes nearly cost him his life.
Using Twitter to say whatever they want about their fellow students or their schools without consequence.
The threats these two teens are alleged to have posted were put on Twitter.
She was known as Becca, and police say she took her life after getting bullied relentlessly by kids on the internet.
Some frightening times now for one of Hollywood's hottest young stars. Ellen Page has become the target of a series of violent death threats on Twitter.
Twitter is an extremely popular social media site, but it may become the new destination for anonymous threats.
Not terribly difficult to hack the Twitter account.
I imagine, to your point, this scared a lot of people.
Harassed Robin Williams' daughter, Zelda Williams, on Twitter just days after his tragic death.
Death threats on social networking sites like Twitter.
And I've had hate mail and bomb threats.
Go 49ers receiver Kyle Williams quickly became the target of death threats on Twitter.
She's so frightened by the backlash, she's now reported the threatening tweets to police.
Even some death threats. One person said, "Kim K, please kill yourself now because everyone hates you after this tweet."
Well, right now with celebrity stalking, one of my biggest problems with that is Twitter.
Hashtag Die Perry took to Twitter to bash the couple, using words like kill and death.
Nasty threats on Twitter, and authorities are taking this very seriously.
Aggravated menacing is a serious charge.
Give me a rifle, I'll assassinate both Romney and Obama.
Many of them voicing their opinion on Twitter, some even threatening Taylor's life, saying, hashtag what makes me smile, plotting Taylor Swift's murder.
A new calls this morning for a crackdown on Twitter trolls.
A noisy backlash against abuse on Twitter.
There's a dark side to Twitter, as we learned.
After days of the online chat site coming under attack for not properly policing explicit violent messages to women.
Tweets that caused disgust and anguish really to many of the public.
Auf Twitter hat Anita letzte Woche den Verlauf eines sehr gruseligen Tweeters veröffentlicht.
The trolls who attacked Charlotte Dawson.
British Labour MP Stella Creasy was one of many high-profile Twitter users who'd been targeted with death and rape threats.
Die now before the people kill you.
Online bullying.
It's illegal in this country, and we want Twitter and the police to be able to work together quickly and proactively to identify the people setting up
rape and bomb threats.
Badham says no one can imagine what it's like to be attacked by online trolls.
Threatening to rape you, threatening to slit your throat.
We obviously can't publish some of the most abusive tweets that you receive.
A load of the tweets that I received, which, were really graphic rape and death threats.
And women on Twitter, they are threatened with rape on Twitter every day.
When you say you've been threatened many times with rape, I mean, how many times? I mean, this
Sounds appalling. I mean, being
hundreds, possibly that many, perhaps thousands of times.
Journalist Mike Smith has helped unmask Twitter trolls, receiving death threats himself.
What sort of abuse have you faced?
It's been horrendous, Kay. I've had Twitter impersonation, I've had trolling, I've had my profile cloned, I've received death threats.
Well, the Twitter trolls have struck again, this time.
Want me dead? French and US legislation is colliding over a case of online hate speech.
With the union now suing the company and its director, Dick Costolo, for $50 million.
This appears to be the first time, certainly in Australia, that Twitter itself as the platform has been sued, and I guess probably it was really only a matter of time.
Two companies have sued Twitter for $124 million after claiming that the social media giant fraudulently asked them to organise a private sale of its shares.
Legal commentators saying that the social networking site Twitter...
a bloody nightmare. The Lord Chief Justice says social media must be brought under control,
saying people need to be accountable for their comments.
A TV host driven to a suicide attempt.
This is what pushed Charlotte to the edge, to attempt to take her own life.
There is a sense now being put out there on Twitter that Twitter was responsible for this, for the death of Sunanda Pushkar, and that she was, driven to take her life.
क्या सुनंदा की मौत ट्विटर मर्डर है?
The thing is, it's not freedom of speech, it's freedom of screech. I mean, there's outpouring of misogyny against women, especially on Twitter. They published on Twitter what they thought was her address and told men where to go to attack her.
As a result of that, back in the States, I got some very nasty rape and death threats, and people actually started showing up in my neighbourhood.
It will be news when I rape you.
She tweeted, "I'm eager on the continuation of the success of the show," and sent her death threats, with one horrific tweet directed her way saying, "I will burn your house down."
Reports of online bullying and harassment are on the rise, according to the Deputy Commissioner.
A 10% increase on the previous year.
Its social networking
Who
site...
killed herself after being bullied online, has attacked...
A website where bullying messages were left for a teenager who went on to take her own life.
More than a third of young people have been affected by cyber abuse, and reports show that bullying accounts for up to 44% of child suicides.
Well, Del Harvey is Twitter's head of trust and safety, and I spoke to her from California before we came on air.
Del Harvey, the British politician Stella Creasy has repeatedly been told on Twitter that she's going to be raped. Why have you done so very little about it?
To back up and give you a little bit of context about who I am and why I'm the person here talking to you, along with what's actually happened so far in this. I'm Del Harvey. I head up the Trust and Safety Department at Twitter, which is the department that handles issues tied to user safety and the like. I've actually been at Twitter for about 5 years, come this October.
Look, the CV is very interesting, but could we just move on? Why have you done so very little about the threats of rape to a British Labour politician?
I think that there's perhaps a misperception about how we responded.
She told the BBC, "I spoke to Twitter's Director of Trust and Safety, who admitted they'd messed it up and that their systems weren't robust enough. She made the right noises, but there was no date for a change."
Caroline Criado Perez told me last night that when she complained about rape threats, she was blocked by one of your managers. Why would he do that?
The New York City Police Department is kind of off the charts upset because Twitter is saying, we're not going to tell you the identity of the person who posted those tweets.
The California-based website had ignored a French court ruling which gave Twitter 2 weeks to identify people who broke France's laws against hate speech.
Today, in retrospect, we can see that Twitter is protecting the identity and anonymity of these people.
The threat.
So you're going to discipline this guy?
He's not in my department.
Twitter says its job is to enable communication and not to moderate misogyny.
What is Twitter as a massive company going to do about this?
While other social networks have a good relationship with Australian authorities, to date, Twitter has not agreed to sit down and meet with representatives.
The thing is, I'm talking to you about rape threats to women, and you're talking corporate gibberish.
I'm certainly not trying to.
I went to the police about it. They went to Twitter about it.
But neither the police nor Hadley's lawyer got any response from Twitter.
Well, if it's so important to you, why are you so slow? Why do the women involved say the response has been inadequate? Why does the Shadow Home Secretary here say it's been inadequate? Why is it so inadequate?
part of the challenge for us is that we have a really wide variety of use cases on.
There is a problem, and the communications minister is also involved, which is Twitter is based in the US. It doesn't provide information.
Our goal is to push for Twitter to be obligated to work with authorities when these cowards break the law.
And B, the person does so in a way that reasonable persons would regard as being menacing, harassing or offensive. Penalty: imprisonment for 3 years.
A wake-up call to you, and I'm just trying to figure out where the wake-up is happening. How are you waking up?
Well, we've got a number of things that we've had in development.
I think it's frustrating for those of us who have been directly affected by this now that we're hearing different stories from both the police and from Twitter.
His lawyers are now taking action and trying to force Twitter to hand over the details of the person who ignored a gagging order and posted his name.
The mother filed a pre-suit discovery motion against Twitter. She claims the Twitter accounts posted her daughter's photograph without her permission, also posting her phone number, her name, the city where she lives.
The principal says the school has contacted Twitter repeatedly to have the page pulled down, but have only gotten automated responses.
I will never Twitter the rest of my life. This is something that they should have handled immediately.
I've spoken numerous times to Staffordshire Police, other police forces, who are really banging their heads against a brick wall because they want to do stuff, but Twitter aren't furnishing them with the information. And all it's doing is providing a vacuum for anti-Semitic abuse, racist abuse, homophobic abuse, sexist abuse, anti-disability abuse, and it is quite frankly illegal.
Not helped, for example, by the fact that a few days ago, one Twitter boss protected his tweets so people like Stella Creasy MP couldn't contact him.
He did not reply, he blocked her and closed down his account. Now, the first law of Twitter is you engage. And if you're not engaging with the people who are victims of abuse on Twitter, you're messing things up.
From pervertedjustice.com, Del Harvey.
The decoys are provided by a self-styled citizen watchdog group called Perverted Justice. Many in law enforcement say the police have no business working with such vigilante groups.
Absolutely not. That would never happen in the NYPD.
Judge Wick slammed the tactics used by the equally pathetic supposed online watchdog, Perverted Justice. That what they engaged in was nothing more than entrapment.
The transcript of the chat may indicate Conrad was entrapped.
The decoy initiates contact and solicits photographs from the suspect.
One man is dead, NBC is being sued for millions, and charges have been dropped against every single person arrested in the Murphy sting.
It's a prosecutor's worst nightmare.
What exactly is the deal between NBC and Perverted Justice?
Perverted Justice, far from cooperating, said the DA would have to get the document from their theatrical agent.
Whose sting was this? The police departments or the vigilantes hired by Dateline?
The group's methods have long been questioned, most recently by Marcia Bartel, a former NBC producer who is now suing NBC for $1 million after she was fired when she voiced concerns about the ethics on To Catch a Predator. Her lawsuit alleges the Perverted Justice chats are trolling operations. Perverted Justice chats are trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations.
Psychopathic behavior.
Very dangerous.
Trolling operations.
Threatened with
Trolling
rape,
operations.
death threats.
Trolling
Graphic rape and
operations.
death threats.
Trolling operations.
Twitter.
Trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations. Trolling operations.
Death
threats on Twitter. And police say she took her life.
She was, driven to take her life. Rape and death threats.
Child suicides.
Kill and death.
abuse, sexist abuse.
Stop threatening to kill people on Twitter.
Racist comments.
Death threats.
Death and rape threats.
Without consequence. Die now before the people kill you.
Violent death threats on Twitter. Bomb threats.
Tough threats. Threatening to rape you, threatening to slit your throat.
Death threats on Twitter.
Death threats. Death threats.
Hashtag die Harry. Threatened with rape on Twitter.
A bloody nightmare. Nasty threats on Twitter to attempt to take her own life. Twitter was responsible for obviously death threats.
Twitter motivates what we do. Everything is how they do. Told men we were going to attack them. Next to death threats. Plotting Twitter's with murder.
Penalty: imprisonment for 3 years.